Welcome to the Wahlburger Report. It is Tuesday, March 7th, 2023. Excelsior, go forth and multiply. Listen to my last podcast, or my first, I should say, which is also my last, and realize how much inspiration I take from WWE promos, how I talk. So I need to scale that back a little bit. Play a little slow, sound like some 80s wrestler, but I can tell you where my inspiration comes from. Um, Again, Excelsior, go forth and multiply. I take those sayings, Excelsior, from the great Stan Lee, and go forth and multiply being very unused scripture these days. Apparently, we've got too many people on the planet. That's what some people say. I said it's total bullshit. And I think that we should create more people as well, do more things. So it doesn't only just apply to creating more people on the planet, but also go forth and multiply on the many great and wonderful things that you do. So wanted to comment today on Valuetainment's interview of Steven Crowder. I want to go back to a little bit pre-COVID and the state of the internet at that point in time. I remember pre-COVID. It's hard to remember because so much occurred back then or since then of what the thought process was. I remember thinking how wonderful the internet was and what a Wild West situation it was, that there were all these independent people creating content for people to consume rather than traditional media. That was great, and I thought that was the direction that we were going. And then enter COVID, and everything got locked down. And of course, I think that there were nefarious individuals and entities which capitalized on that situation. I think traditional media creeped on in to the interwebs, into YouTube. Thus, over this period of time, we've noticed a lot of censorship in regards to what's happening, and also things turning into more of a business instead of the Wild West of what it was previous to that. Which maybe that's a good thing to a certain extent. I don't think so. So we've got all these contract negotiations here, there, what have you. Everyone worrying about who they're answerable to and who's their boss and so on and so forth with all these content creators. What the hell happened to people just doing what they do, saying what they're going to say, and it doesn't matter who they're answering to? So I hope that that is something that I can carry forward. So with this whole conversation with Patrick Bet-David, who uses True Believers, by the way, which is also a stolen phrase from Stan Lee. I don't know if he even realizes that or not, but I love that phrase. Anyway, true believers such as Steven Crowder, who I think is an unbelievably creative talent, incredibly hilarious, very funny, and I love his show. So the fact of the matter is that I'm very uncomfortable with the state of where we are business-wise with YouTube, with all of these content creators, all about it being about the business now. Why is it all about the business? I did enjoy the conversation. It was great and interesting. One thing that I wanted to run by is that they talked about religion as an analogy in talking about how Crowder and him doing these contract issues with the Daily Wire, how they were competing as if they were religions. And you know what, Patrick Bet-David, you constantly refer to LDS or Mormons. I was actually raised as a Mormon. I'm definitely not practicing at this point. And I think they would refer to me as a Jack Mormon, meaning someone who's fallen away and having a little bit of a too good of a time in life, in a lascivious way to be considered an upstanding Mormon. Anyway, The fact of the matter is, what I think is that with all these different, I like the analogies that they had in regards to varied religions and how they should have very similar beliefs, but they're still broken up by these little certain beliefs that hold them apart, and they define themselves based on those. My thought is, what if really the sin of man and the big challenge that God has presented to us is us all actually getting along independent of what our differences are per religion. Just like they said, we all kind of have the overall overarching belief that is common, but these little differences that we have breaks us up into factions, which in the end, oftentimes can erupt in violence or rudeness or talking shit about each other. And so that has carried over to, for example, the Daily Wire and Steven Crowder. Contract negotiations. These are millionaires negotiating and fighting with billionaires. We need to get back to just creating content and having a good time and saying whatever the hell that you want and calling out the nefarious powers that be and doing it in such a way that we don't get canceled. Now, there are other applications that we can use beyond YouTube to make sure that our message is distributed all over wherever we can. And that's what I intend to do as well. So, great conversation today. Absolutely interesting and hilarious. I'm going to try and loosen up in regards to how I speak so I don't sound like a WWE entertainer. And I appreciate you coming on and listening to the Wahlburger Report. Make sure you like and subscribe, and also tune in whenever you can. What my goal is right now is I want to get to 1,000 subscribers, so then I can run lives and have commentary and have discussions back and forth on various different issues. So thanks a lot. Again, go forth and multiply. Excelsior.